Alright, so it's time for a bit of a follow-up to probably my worst aged video here so far. Last year I played through the We Love Katamari remake, and I remember spending a decent amount of time bitching about how the only new game we seemed like we were getting in 2025 was an Apple arcade exclusive that no one heard of. And then a couple months later, Once Upon a Katamari was announced. Which, hey, I am more than happy to be wrong. Or, put out a rant that was only relevant for a couple weeks or months if it means getting, a really fun, brand new Katamari game. This was, pretty much everything I would have wanted out of a new entry. I really loved the whole time travel main gimmick twist. It's not groundbreaking or anything, but it led to, a lot of distinct fun levels to play through. Power-ups are here. That was something I remember saying before. I think they can, do some interesting things with that as, a big new feature. And here, I think it's a good start. I feel like the magnet felt like the only, really impactful one. I guess the timer too, but that's a little more abstract because that, sort of plays into your main score as opposed to the magnet, which is pretty immediate and affects the same thing. And yeah, I would like to see some, new ideas with that. As well as maybe, I don't know, I felt like there was, some levels where you needed to use items efficiently to get, the maximum level completion rating. But in general, with maybe, maybe like one or two exceptions, you kind of didn't need them to complete the levels. And I don't know, I think it would be fun if maybe they had, a few special challenge levels that were built a little more around the items. I feel like we could have also used, maybe some more fun items to, shake things up a little more with the multiplayer mode, which I thought, luckily you can play with CPUs, but I thought it was, solid enough. Once again, a good start. Something I would like to see built on a bit more in the future. The one thing that was a little off-putting there for me, though, was that your speed would, decrease, or I don't know, maybe it would stay stagnant when you reach, like a really big size as opposed to kind of, the speed and size scaling together, which sort of adds to some of the, chaos and fun of Katamari. It just felt off to have it like that. I feel like there might be a reason behind that being, in a multiplayer mode, maybe some, balancing issues if they, had that same approach there. But I don't know, maybe there's other ways to sort of, work around it in that. I didn't really like, the feel of, what they wound up going for there. Besides that, I mean, the game feels, I saw some people debating on whether it felt like a Katamari game, and at least compared to the remakes, once again, it was pretty much what I expected gameplay-wise. The custom characters, once again, good start. You can pretty much customize the color scheme of any of the cousins, but I think it would be cool if, down the line in the future, if maybe you can mix and match different bodies and heads. You can customize the face too. That's another thing they do let you do. I don't know, I think you can make some, really crazy fun stuff with, a little extra control there. And I know there might be, that's a little more difficult, and there might be some more, limitations on, there might be some cousins that just are, completely incompatible, but I don't know. That's what I would look at, doing in the future with that. I do have some, minor complaints, things I would like to see changed in the future as well. First off, with the eras in this game, I don't know, maybe it was just me, because maybe I was, just flowing through levels quicker as, I was getting back into it and that. But, I don't know, I feel like the earlier eras where there was just, a bit more there. Later ones, I mean, there were fun, polished levels, but there just wasn't as much content, I felt like, and it was noticeable, especially when you got, some, really fun, unique themes going. I will say they definitely seem to favor Endo Japan, which, I get it. It is a very, Japanese dev, a very Japanese culture influenced franchise. At the same time, I feel like, the one big level you see me here playing in the background, I'm not gonna lie, I got kind of fatigued of it. I felt like I was repeating, especially a lot of the earlier sections, a lot to, get to the new, actually, more fun, fresh sections. So I don't know, maybe they could have, skipped on one of the middle, build up levels and then just kind of bring you, a bit further along so, it wasn't as repetitious. Either that or maybe, you just kind of, it would require, whole new level designs and that, but maybe if you have, maybe another, big level, maybe less big, but, have it in a different era or something. I don't know. I'm just kind of spitballing here. Hopefully that made sense. I feel like part of the issue too, though, was that I did go to, collect all the cousins. And part of the reason that there's so much repetition of these levels is a lot of the bigger levels have 3 collectible cousins, and you have to collect them in order, and you need to do another playthrough to collect, the second and third cousins. So you're going through these massive levels 3 times. And then, like I said, you have sections that are repeating between them here, and it's just a lot. And I think they just should have made all the cousins, just always available. I mean, it's just such a, easy, simple fix there. I don't know. If they don't do something like that next time, I might actually, skip out on the cousins, which would be a shame. Especially, too, I don't remember this being as much of an issue with We Love Katamari Remake. I remember the one level, too, where I discovered it. It was like a pirate ship level, and there was 2 different routes. And, I got the first cousin. And then, like I said, I didn't know that you had to do them in order. So I was trying to go to the new section and get, the cousin that was in that new section, not realizing I needed to get the middle cousin before that one even appeared. So then I repeated that level, a good couple times before I realized that. And that was, just really frustrating. And once again, unfortunately, there is to get, all the achievements in that. You do need all the cousins to get the last couple levels to, collect the crowns. I thought the crowns were, decent enough collectibles. And how, even with Katamari, I don't mind necessarily redoing a level once. I can go, kind of focus on getting the crowns I may have missed from that initial playthrough. I'm a bit more familiar, can be a bit more efficient and, get a better, just overall level rating. The levels are short enough to where I tend not to mind something that, I do sometimes, are not favorable towards. But here, it just goes too far. It does have me curious about the future, though. Like, I wonder where they go in terms of level, because I feel like time travel is something that's hard to follow up. Like I said, if they did a new game, I was more expecting, just a new, general city or something. And, I'm definitely not complaining, though. It was a great idea, and it definitely, pushed things further. But it's one of those things, that's why I'm not, one of the creatives at these studios. I'm curious to see how they hopefully, follow it up, not, however long it was in between this game and the previous non-remake. I guess there's no more remakes then, I guess, too. I mean, I know I was kind of wondering, whether they would do the PSP one next or the Xbox 360 one, but maybe we're done, maybe we're not, and they'll surprise us. I guess I could see that going either way, depending on if, they just kind of want to get something out in between working on something else. We'll see. Definitely would recommend checking it out, though. Just, maybe not going for completion unless you really into it, and just a lot of potential here to build off of.